Have you ever noticed that some silences feel different? Not the kind that makes you restless or lonely, but the kind that feels like the world has finally taken a deep breath with you. It's the quiet that fills a room when you close the door, when the hum of the refrigerator becomes a soft reminder that life is still moving, and the ticking of a clock begins to sound almost like a heartbeat. In that moment, nothing is missing because nothing is demanded of you. You don't have to smile or speak or prove that you're fine. You just get to be. People sometimes mistake this for isolation. They think those who love staying home are hiding from the world, too afraid or too tired to participate. But for many of us, home isn't where we run to escape life. It's where life finally slows down enough to feel real again. Out there, everything moves too fast. You measure your worth in how much you've done, how much you've shown, how much noise you can make. But inside these walls, the measures change. The air feels softer. Your thoughts sound clearer. Your body finally stops preparing for the next thing and simply rests in the now. There's something deeply human about that moment of stillness. The one where you realize that peace doesn't always come from achieving more, but from asking less of yourself. Home gives you permission to exist without performance. It's the place where the version of you that has been strong all day, kind all day, careful all day, can finally set the mask down and breathe like someone who belongs to themselves again. You stop chasing dreams that belong to everyone else and start awakening to your own rhythm. You begin to understand that silence isn't empty. It's spacious. It holds all the parts of you that the noise of the world drowns out. Your calm, your clarity, your truth. The next time someone calls you antisocial, remember this. Peace doesn't always look social. Sometimes peace is the sound of nothing happening, yet everything healing. It's the soft reminder that life doesn't have to be loud to be meaningful, and that being at home doesn't mean you've turned away from the world. It means you've finally turned toward yourself. And that's where our story begins. There's a reason why being home feels like medicine. It's not just comfort or habit, it's something much deeper, something wired into the way our bodies and minds are built. Out in the world, your senses are always on alert. The lights are too bright, the conversations too quick, the expectations endless. Even when nothing is wrong, your body acts as if something might be. You smile when you're tired. You nod when you'd rather pause. You keep performing because that's what life outside demands. But the moment you walk through your door, something changes. The air feels heavier in the best way, like it's finally wrapping around you instead of pushing against you. You start to notice how the walls know your shape, how the familiar smell of your home feels like recognition. Every sound, the kettle, the rustle of curtains, the quiet thud of your steps becomes a gentle reminder that here you don't have to keep proving you belong. Here you already do. Psychologists would call this a low-threat environment, but to most of us, it's simply the feeling of being safe. When you're home, your body doesn't have to defend itself. Your heart rate slows down. Your mind stops scanning for what could go wrong. The constant stream of noise outside, traffic, notifications, opinions, fades into something distant, and your thoughts finally have room to breathe. It's not laziness, and it's not withdrawal. It's recovery. It's your nervous system whispering, "You're safe now." We often underestimate how much energy it takes to exist in a world that never pauses. Every conversation, every smile, every decision draws from a limited well, and home is where that well fills back up. The soft rituals, lighting a candle, making tea, sitting in your favorite chair, aren't meaningless habits. They are signals to your body that it can lower its guard, that it doesn't have to fix, perform, or hurry. Carl Jung wrote that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Maybe that's why solitude feels both peaceful and confronting. When you're home, surrounded by stillness, the masks you wear begin to slide off. You start hearing the honest version of your own voice, the one that doesn't flatter, doesn't hide, doesn't chase approval. Sometimes that honesty feels uncomfortable, but it's also what healing sounds like. The world might see stillness as unproductive, but deep down, you know that without it, nothing real can grow. A plant doesn't bloom while it's being moved. It blooms when it's rooted. Home gives you that root, a steady place to be nourished, unseen, and whole. And maybe that's the quiet secret we've forgotten, that rest is not a reward for doing enough. Rest is what allows you to remember who you are before the world told you who to be. Because once you remember that, everything begins to change. One of the most misunderstood truths about people who love staying at home is that they don't dislike people. In fact, they often feel everything so deeply that ordinary interactions can leave them emotionally tired. It's not that they don't care, it's that they care so much, and too often, all at once. Being around others can feel like standing in the middle of overlapping conversations, trying to listen to everyone and yourself at the same time. It's beautiful, but it's also draining. So when you choose the quiet, you're not rejecting others. You're protecting the parts of yourself that need peace to stay kind. You've probably felt that before. The difference between being surrounded by people yet feeling unseen, and being alone yet feeling completely whole. It's strange, isn't it? How silence can sometimes feel like company, while crowds can feel like absence. That's because connection isn't about proximity. It's about presence. And presence doesn't always require words. It just needs honesty. Home becomes the place where you learn that. You start realizing that you don't need constant contact to feel close to someone. You begin to prefer the kind of relationships that move slower, that breathe between sentences, that don't need performance to prove they exist. The world celebrates noise, big gestures, constant updates, endless communication, but the truth is, intimacy often happens in the quiet spaces between, in the shared glance, in the comfort of saying nothing and still feeling understood. Carl Jung believed that loneliness does not come from having no people around, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. Maybe that's why so many people who love solitude feel more connected than those surrounded by company. Because when you spend time with yourself, you start understanding what those important things actually are. You discover what feels genuine, what feels forced, what kind of energy makes you open, and what kind makes you close. You stop chasing company and start curating presence. It's a beautiful shift from wanting to be included to wanting to be understood, from needing attention to valuing alignment. And when you meet someone who matches that rhythm, someone who values silence as much as you do, the connection runs deeper than the words ever could. You no longer feel the pressure to perform, to entertain, or to hide behind small talk. You can simply exist together, like two quiet souls sharing the same peace. That's why solitude doesn't make you love less. It makes you love wiser. It teaches you patience, empathy, and discernment. You learn that not everyone deserves immediate access to your energy, and that protecting your peace isn't selfish. It's an act of care, both for yourself and for those you truly love. Because when you finally understand the value of your own company, you stop giving it away to people who can't meet you there. You begin to see that being alone is not a gap to fill. It's a space where the right kind of connection can finally find you. And maybe that's where real love begins. Not in the noise of being seen, but in the quiet of being known. Have you ever noticed how your clearest thoughts rarely arrive when the world is loud? They show up quietly, almost shyly, in those in between moments. The shower at night, the slow walk after dinner, or that pause when you're staring out the window with a cup of tea in your hand. That's the strange gift of solitude. When everything around you softens, the truth inside you finally speaks. Out there, your mind spends its energy reacting, answering messages, managing impressions, moving from one small demand to the next. But at home, when the noise fades and time stops asking to be used, something gentle happens. Your thoughts begin to unfold instead of scatter. Ideas you didn't know you had start rising to the surface like ripples in still water. What felt confusing suddenly takes shape because there's finally enough quiet for clarity to bloom. It's in these moments that creativity often finds you, not through effort, but through stillness. When your hands are busy with simple things, washing dishes, folding clothes, watering plants, your mind begins to weave meaning. You remember a dream you once had, or a truth you've been avoiding. You start writing a sentence in your head that feels too honest to say out loud, and realize it's the beginning of something important. Inspiration doesn't always appear as a lightning strike. Sometimes it's the slow, steady hum of being present with yourself. Many great thinkers have understood this. Virginia Woolf said that a woman must have a room of her own, but what she really meant was that every soul needs a place where it can exist without interruption, a place where the need to perform disappears, and the real conversation with the self begins. In solitude, you remember that your voice has a rhythm, your mind has a language, and your spirit has ideas worth listening to. It's not about creating something for the world to see. It's about creating space for yourself to feel. The act of sitting quietly, journaling, painting, or simply thinking deeply isn't a waste of time. It's how we meet our inner world. Every quiet hour spent in reflection is like turning soil that has long gone dry, softening it again so something living can grow. And the beauty of it is this: you don't have to chase purpose when you live this way. Purpose begins to find you. It arrives like a familiar friend who finally catches up after years apart, reminding you that meaning was never lost. It was just buried beneath the noise. So if you've ever felt guilty for wanting more time alone, remember that solitude isn't selfish. It's where your life becomes honest. Because when the world stops demanding answers from you, that's when you begin asking the questions that matter. And those questions, the ones whispered in quiet rooms, are often the ones that change everything. It's strange, isn't it, how the world has learned to make us feel guilty for being at peace. We live in a culture that glorifies movement, always being seen, always achieving, always producing. The moment you slow down, someone will remind you that you should be doing more, that you're wasting potential, or missing out, or falling behind. It's as if rest itself has become suspicious. But here's the truth most people never stop to see. The world profits from your restlessness. It sells urgency as ambition and exhaustion as success. Every hour you spend online is another hour spent comparing, buying, proving, and yet, the more you chase what everyone else is chasing, the more disconnected you feel from your own life. Home becomes the one place where that noise finally loses its power, where you can remember that you were never meant to live at the speed of notifications. Still, that quiet voice of guilt lingers. You sit on the couch, doing nothing, and suddenly it whispers, "Shouldn't you be somewhere else?" Shouldn't you be doing something useful? But what could be more useful than learning how to live without constant validation? What could be more productive than tending to your own peace? The irony is that the people who rest with intention are often the ones who show up stronger, calmer, and more present when the world truly needs them. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That kind of becoming doesn't happen in public. It happens in the quiet corners of your home, where you can listen to yourself long enough to know what feels right and what doesn't. You begin to notice how much of your energy has been spent performing, smiling when you're tired, saying yes when you meant no, explaining yourself to people who are never really listening. Slowly, you start taking that energy back. You learn that saying no doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear that protecting your peace doesn't mean you're hiding. It means you've stopped handing your well-being to people who don't know how to hold it. You begin to honor your limits like sacred boundaries instead of flaws to be fixed. You stop apologizing for needing space, for being quiet, for choosing small joys over constant motion. And then something shifts. The guilt starts to fade. You realize that the world's definition of doing enough was never built for people who value depth. You understand that being at home, reading, thinking, resting, feeling, isn't withdrawing from life. It's preparing for it. Because peace isn't the reward for finishing the race. It's the strength that allows you to run it without losing yourself along the way. So when that voice of guilt returns, let it remind you of this. You're not behind, you are simply on your own time. And time spent in stillness is never wasted. It's invested in becoming whole. There comes a moment after spending enough time in the quiet when you realize something has changed. The peace that once lived only within the walls of your home begins to travel with you. You step outside and the world still moves fast, still demands, still tests, but it no longer sweeps you away. You breathe differently now. You listen before reacting. You carry a softness that isn't fragile but steady, like a light that refuses to flicker even when the wind rises. That's when you understand that home was never just a place. It was a practice. The more you return to yourself in silence, the more that silence becomes your foundation. It shapes the way you speak, the way you love, the way you stand in a crowded room and still feel centered. You begin to see that home is not what surrounds you, it's what supports you from within, and it shows in the smallest moments. The morning you light a candle before work, not for decoration, but as a quiet way of telling your mind, I am here. The evening you close your laptop, pour tea, and sit for 5 minutes in the dim glow of your favorite corner. No phone, no noise, just breath. These small rituals become invisible acts of healing. They are how you teach your nervous system to rest, how you remind your soul that it is safe to feel again. There's a kind of strength in that quiet rhythm, a power that doesn't announce itself but transforms everything it touches. You start to notice how people react differently around you, not because you've changed your words, but because your energy has shifted. Calm becomes contagious. Your stillness begins to steady the room. And in a world so desperate to be seen, you become the rare kind of person who sees clearly. When life feels uncertain, you no longer look for safety in others. You return to the home within yourself. You listen for that inner voice you've learned to trust, the one that reminds you that peace is not something you find, it's something you practice. You realize that even when the world feels unpredictable, you can still be predictable to yourself. Gentle, patient, grounded. That's what true stability feels like. And maybe that's what this whole journey has been about. Not learning how to escape the world, but learning how to live in it without losing your quiet. To let the noise exist without letting it take your peace. To find your rhythm again. one that isn't measured by urgency, but by meaning. So if you're someone who loves staying home, don't ever apologize for it. Don't let the world convince you that stillness is weakness or that comfort means complacency. You're not missing out. You're tuning in. You're doing the work that no one applauds, but everyone benefits from. The quiet work of becoming whole. And when you do choose to step out into the world, you bring something precious with you. You bring calm into chaos. You bring warmth into rooms that forgot what safety feels like. You remind others that it's possible to move through life gently, without rushing, without noise, without losing yourself. Because once you've built peace inside, you stop searching for it in others. You stop asking the world to give you what you've already learned to create. You carry home with you, everywhere you go. And that's not just a way of living, that's a way of being. If this message felt like home to you, subscribe and stay close. We're building a quiet corner of the internet for people who choose depth over noise, one honest story at a time.